Hello, welcome to the Ghost of Harrenhal. My name is Simon.
And I'm Myrcella.
Thank you for joining us for episode 33 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. Today we're discussing chapter 32 of A Game of Thrones, which is Arya 3.
We'll chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you, and hopefully we'll provide you with some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the TV show, and indulge in a little pedantry. Be sure to check out the show notes. They provide some additional information about the characters and other things of note in the chapter. How are you?
I'm doing alright. How you doing?
Socially distanced?
Yes, you and I are socially distanced, that's for sure.
Well, this is a juicy chapter, so let's get down to business.
Let's
Quick
do it.
recap of what Arya was up to last time we saw her.
What was she?
Last time we saw her, she was bruised from her dancing lessons with Syrio Forel at the feast during the Hands tournament. Sansa was baffled and could not understand how anyone could dance that badly. Ned was concerned, thought perhaps he'd chosen the wrong person to teach her.
Yep.
But Arya was clearly loving the lesson. Myrcella, why don't we give them the summary?
Alright. So Arya's chasing cats. She's cornered the last Red Keep cat that has eluded her. It's a vicious tomcat with devil eyes, and she applies her new skills and grabs it, laughing as it tries to rip her apart. She's interrupted by Prince Tommen and Princess Myrcella, plus retinue, who happens to be passing. They mistake her for an urchin boy. One of the guards tries to grab Arya, but she eludes and escapes at the cost of knocking Tommen over, and then it ends up getting pretty lost. She stumbles along into a dark chamber filled with monster skulls.
She heads deeper still and stumbles upon a conversation between two men, speculating that the lion and wolf will soon be at war. She listens for a long time, hearing more juicy gossip before losing them. She eventually finds her way back out of the tunnels to find herself far outside the Red Keep, and filthy. She bathes in the river and walks back. When she gets back to her father, she tries to explain to him what she's heard, but her explanation sounds like childish fantasy, and he ignores her. She's dispatched to bed when Yoren of the Night's Watch arrives with news of what went down at the inn.
Yeah, that summary is, it captures the chapter. I think the majority of what we're going to talk about was about one of those sentences, though. The one about
the conversation she overheard.
Yes, I think that's where the meat of this chapter is.
Yeah, that's why we summarised it so short, because we're going to talk about that in so much detail that there's no point sort of reiterating it here.
Yeah, I like how you started off the talk about all the skills that Forel is trying to impart on Arya. She mentions a whole bunch of them. You want to read through? You want to quickly go through some of the things she says? The
skills that Arya is trying to develop are to be slippery as an eel, calm as still water, quiet as a shadow, light as a feather, quick as a snake, swift as a deer, strong as a bear, fierce as a wolverine, and smooth as summer silk.
Wow, that is a well-rounded person, or whatever.
Although I'm
right
not
there.
quite sure how you. Yeah, I'm not sure how you can be quick as a snake and swift as a deer. I'm not sure what those two things are, how different those two things are.
I think one is small space movement. The other is speed, maybe.
Yes, very good.
Good luck with that strong
I'll
as a
take
bear
that off
thing.
my pedantry list. As close as you can get, I guess, is the idea.
Yes.
So one thing I noticed when Tommen and Myrcella see Arya catching the cat, they stop and ask what she's doing, and they display some Lannisterness, which we didn't really notice from them when they were in Winterfell.
Yeah, I thought
when they
that
were
too.
in Winterfell, they seemed like the sweetest members of the Lannister clan.
Yeah,
without sort of meanness. But Myrcella describes they both mistake her for a boy.
Yep.
Describes Arya as a ragged boy, and then giggles about calling him a ragged boy to his face. And Tommen doubles down with a ragged, dirty, smelly boy. Kind of. I mean, they're little kids, but just there's that hint of, I keep calling them Lannisters. They are, of course, Baratheons. It's just that these traits seem to come from the Lannister side of the family.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, I was pondering that same conversation when I read it, and I kind of thought the same thing. One, there is some meanness, and two, they are kids.
So the chamber that Arya goes into is full of monsters' skulls, but they're presumably the dragon skulls. We know that the dragon skulls used to adorn the walls of the throne room.
Yes, back when the Targaryens.
And Robert, And we know they're not there anymore, so they probably are dumped somewhere in the castle.
Right, yeah, and Tyrion actually... Tyrion mentioned him finding them when he went down into the dungeons when he was there for Robert and Cersei's wedding. So these are probably the same ones he stumbled across. No, we don't know for sure because there's a bunch down there, but I feel like they're probably the first one she runs into is probably Vhagar, which is Visenya Targaryen's dragon. The second, Meraxes, which was Rhaenys' dragon, and the third, Balerion, the Black Dread. Only based on the sizes, Vhagar was smaller than Meraxes, who was smaller than Balerion, and that's kind of... She was bumping into one, and the next one was bigger. But they could be other dragons. It just seems like those are probably the three she ran into.
I read that there were 19 skulls down.
So...
I believe that the dragons got consistently smaller from the original 3, that the graph of dragon size with time was monotonically decreasing.
Okay, yeah. They had the time to live the longest because they were the oldest dragons on Westeros, so... And dragons never stop growing, so that would make sense.
Oh, is that right? I was going to ask that. Is that true that dragons don't stop growing?
Yeah, as long as they are well-fed and have open space. The dragons, we had this conversation I think it was actually one of the earlier Tyrion chapters, that, the ones that were kept in the dragon pit never grew as large as the ones that weren't in the dragon pit. So,
yeah. Anyway, we're digressing before the meat of the chapter. The meat of this chapter is what Arya overhears. And I think we're going to have a discussion, which we possibly should have had before we started recording, about whether or not we're going to reveal who the people in this conversation are, because I think it's very safe to reveal who one of the two people is, because the description Arya provides us with leads us to an inescapable conclusion that one of the people talking is Illyrio Mopatis, who we remember from the earlier chapters. Yeah, I mean, he's from the Free Cities by his accent, check. He's enormously fat, check. He has a double beard.
Forked yellow beard at that. Yeah.
Forked yellow beard, yes, exactly. And so that's Illyrio Mopatis. Plus, everything he says points to the fact it's Illyrio Mopatis, because he knows Viserys and
Dany. He knows what they're up to. Yeah. Yes.
He knows what they're up to, knows that she's married to Khal Drogo. All of these things point to this being Illyrio Mopatis. So I think we can safely say who that one is. The other one...
I think it's safe for us to say why we think it is who we think it is.
Okay.
Then
we will do that.
I think here's why. So there's description about the guy, and let's put it like this. One of the voices that Arya hears, there's something about him that seems familiar, even though she doesn't quite recognize him. But put it this way. Right. This is the third time that a stout man has been described to us. The guy that paid Gendry's apprenticeship was a stout man. The guy that came into Ned's chambers, Ned described as being a stout man. And now this guy is being described as a stout man. And that's one thing you can't change.
We know who the person was that came into Ned's chambers.
Yes, right. You can't change. You could change your accent. Varys, right? You could change your clothes. You could change. You could have put on a wig or whatever, but you can't change the fact that you're a stout man. I think that tips us off as to who it is.
Yeah. The reason I ask is because when we talk about the television show, in the television show, there is no uncertainty.
Right.
You see these two characters.
Yes.
I can absolutely pick them out of a lineup as who they are. And so our speculation about who they are in the book, obviously the book and the TV show might have diverged, but if we speculate and then I tell you who it is in the TV show, there's no longer any room for speculation.
Yeah, and I think it's okay, again, because there's another really big tip-off when they start talking about little birds. There's only one person we know that has little birds, and unless you own an aviary, there's only one other option. So...
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to call these two people Mopatis and Varys then.
I think that's safe. I think it's okay. I hope nobody is upset that we're saying who this is, but I really think people will know who this is at this point. But really, the thing about the stout man is because we didn't know when Ned got the description of the guy that paid the apprentice fee for Gendry, we didn't know who that was. But now this is the third time that the description of him being a stout man has come up. I think we could tie these all together.
You told me at the time, and I'm not sure if it was in the recording or afterwards, that you thought it was Varys.
You asked me at the first one, and I said, I think I know who it is, but I can't say yet. And then I told you off air who I thought it was. But then I came clean last time at Ned's. When he came into Ned's and Ned didn't recognize him, I said, I think both of those two were Varys. And now this one, again, I think is pretty sure is Varys.
So let's go through everything that Arya heard.
One other thing about Varys, he's also from Essos. So Illyrio Mopatis is from Essos. So there would be a logical connection between... Essos is a big continent, but we do know that...
But Varys has been in Westeros a long time, right?
He has, yes. But one thing, and I don't think this is a spoiler, I looked hard to make sure that this wasn't a plot situation, and I don't believe it is. But Illyrio Mopatis and Varys became friends as young men. They got to know each other.
Oh.
So they have a long history together.
That's interesting. I see. Okay.
So
all right, well, good. So let's go through, and we're basically going to give you everything that's said in this conversation. So one by one. So the first speaker is that Arya hears is Varys, and he says, it's sort of like there's a sort of ellipsis ... Found one bastard, the rest will come soon. So Arya thinks that he's referring to Jon Snow, but I think we know that sounds much more like he's talking about Ned's investigation into Gendry.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the case.
The bastard in question is Gendry.
She just probably doesn't know anyone else other than Jon, who, is a natural-born, base-born kid.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes.
Yeah. So why don't you take Mopatis' answer then?
Okay, the Mopatis responds, and when he finds the truth, what will he do? And this clearly seems to be in reference to Ned and the fact that
also suggests that he is getting close to the truth.
Right. Yep.
But they both seem to think that it's just a matter of time. From where he currently is, he's not going to miss this.
Yeah, he's getting to the aha moment of all this, possibly. And his question is, what's he going to do when he finds out? Yeah.
Varys replies that he doesn't know what Ned will do. He said that the fools tried to kill his son and make a farce of it. So he's now, confirming what we just said. We're talking about Ned here. And the lion and the wolf will be at each other's throats. So they basically are saying, well, these two are going to come to blows. And the reason they're going to come to blows is because of either what Ned is about to discover, or the fact that they tried to murder his son, or a combination of those two things. Yeah,
so now it takes an interesting turn, and Mopatis comes back with, it's too soon. What use is war now? We're not ready. So it makes it pretty obvious that there is a plot involved here that Ned is kind of stumbling into, and these guys are obviously heavily involved in whatever this plot is.
Yeah, I mean, when you say the words "what use is war now," that suggests that your plan is for war,
right?
In your own time, that you have a timeline at which you intend to go to war in some way.
Right.
The other thing that interests me about this is that there seems to be a clear indication that both of these people, both Varys and Mopatis, know precisely what it is that Ned is about to learn that Jon Arryn did learn.
Yes, I think so.
And then that makes me ask the question, is it a secret that reveals them as plotters? You know, I mean, is that what the secret is? The secret, when you reveal it, you will know that Mopatis and Varys are in league in
Right.
some way to create a war, and therefore you're going to be silenced by them for potentially ruining.
Yep. I see what you're saying.
Or is it more a matter of you're going to find something out which is the pretense or the rationale for the war? Some dynamite piece of information that you could destroy the realm with. And that's what they're sitting on, and what Arryn and Ned Stark have either found out or are about to find out.
Right. Or is it a secret that could change the political landscape to make it more difficult for this war to be successful? You know what I mean?
Yeah. But they're definitely plotting. I mean, there's no question they're plotting here.
Absolutely.
It makes me wonder quite a lot, because I have had a soft spot for Varys here.
Yeah.
And to hear that he's plotting against the throne in some way is disappointing. So it makes me hope that the plot is not an anti-Robert Baratheon plot in some ways.
Yeah. Starting to feel like it is. Not necessarily that he not necessarily that he is actively trying to kill Robert Baratheon. In fact, I think it's the opposite at the moment. But I think the ultimate goal is the death of Robert Baratheon, and I think in a minute we'll learn why we think this.
Yeah, you raise a good point, because I mean, clearly in the last Ned chapter we heard Varys trying to save Robert, or at least talking about the fact that he previously had information that he didn't do anything with, that he wished he could have done something with in order to save Robert.
Yes, so he says to Ned anyway.
Massive defense.
Yeah. At the very end of the chapter, I kind of want to go through with our newly learned information about some of the things. Go through some of the things that Varys said to Ned at the end of that chapter, and see what we see.
Yeah.
So what's the next thing that they say?
Just to make the point here, that clearly, if Mopatis is involved, then the beneficiaries of this plot would appear to be the Targaryens. I mean,
yes.
Unless, I mean, that's who Mopatis has been grooming and looking after.
Yep.
So is Viserys, is this his real way back to the throne? Khal Drogo is just the tool, but these are the tool makers here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then Varys asks, what would you have me do? So back over to you, Mr. Mopatis.
Well, so Mopatis' response to that is, if one hand can die, why not a second? You have danced the dance before, my friend. So Mopatis believes that he is talking to Aeron's murderer, that it is Varys that, if not directly, heavily indirectly was involved in Jon Arryn's murder.
I'm with you. I mean, that's a damning thing to say. You have danced the dance before, my friend. Now, he might mean it in more general terms than it sounds like.
Like you've handled things before.
You have murdered a hand of the king before.
It sure comes across that way
when I read that.
He could, like you said, he could mean it more general, like you've been in these kind of situations before, you know how these things go. But it certainly seems like he's specifically indicating this. But if that's the case, if it was Varys, or at least Mopatis sure believes it's Varys, and Varys doesn't deny it. But if so...
Well, hang on. You stole my thunder.
Oh, sorry.
To say that.
Sorry. Okay, forget I said that. But if we are to believe that it is Varys, then that means Lysa is wrong, unless Varys is working through Cersei. So...
Well, working for Cersei.
Yeah, working for Cersei is what I meant to say. Sorry. So... would her incorrect information be intentional, that she, hates Cersei and is part of this plot to kill Jon Arryn? Or is someone just whispering in her ear saying that it is Cersei and she's believing that? Or is someone deliberately paying her to say, hey, say this is Cersei? There's a lot of different ways this could go here.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, if Kat's journey to the Eyrie comes to fruition, we'll get to meet Lysa Arryn and perhaps then get to the bottom of this, because you're absolutely right. If this is true, and like you say, Mopatis and Varys are clearly friends here. This is a friendly conversation. He just casually accused him of murdering Jon Arryn, and in a second I'm going to reveal that I, as Varys, am not going to deny that accusation. Then Lysa is talking rubbish.
Yep.
And she's either lying because she wants to bring down Cersei, or she's been misinformed and misled and misguided by someone into thinking that.
Or she could be directly involved. A few of the things we got from the people that Ned had Jory Cassell interview is that there was some discord between Jon and Lysa. And another thing that I think shouldn't be overlooked is the fact that the rumor that Jon Arryn was going to have Robert Arryn fostered at Dragonstone. I think that might be a real sticking point for someone like Lysa Arryn. I don't know that should be entirely discounted, if there's truth to it. Again, just a rumor, but it should be something we should keep on our radar anyway.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes.
So the ball is back in Varys' court, and
Yes.
he does not deny the accusation. He says, before is not now, and this hand is not the other.
Yep.
Now, obviously that says what we already know, that Ned Stark is a different animal to Jon Arryn.
Yeah.
But Varys is clearly appreciating. Does he mean, I wouldn't want to try to kill this one? Or does he mean that this one's reaction to finding out the same thing that we found out might be very different in some way?
Right. Maybe it could mean, I don't want to kill this one. Maybe he has different feelings about Ned.
And that too, absolutely, yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's a rather vague statement. And it could go a lot of different ways. As is some of this is very, very vague that we just have to infer, which I guess is intentionally done at this point. But then Mopatis. Do you have anything more specific about that you wanted to mention before I go on to Mopatis? No. So Mopatis follows up with, we need more time. Dany is pregnant. The cow won't invade unless the baby is born. You know how these savages are. So now it's not necessarily confirmed, but it's pretty close to confirmed that this is the plan, to bring the Targaryens back into power in Westeros.
Yeah. And the war that they perceive is the war between the Dothraki and whatever forces the Westerosi can array against the Dothraki.
Right.
And the reason he's saying we need more time is because he thinks that now it's got to wait for the baby to arrive, because the Dothraki are going to wait for that to happen before they cross the Narrow Sea.
And they haven't. I mean, well, I don't know. Maybe they have already gotten to Vaes Dothrak. Last time we checked in with Dany, they were still on their way there. That is on the far east side of Essos. So then they have to turn around and make their way all the way back across Essos, and then across the Narrow Sea, and then, get their war preparations on or whatever. So that's going to take a little while.
Yeah. So then we come back to Varys, and I'm going to read the entire quote here because it's full of interesting information. So, with reference to Khal Drogo coming across the Narrow Sea, if he does not bestir himself soon, it may be too late, the stout man in the steel cap said. This is no longer a game for 2 players, if ever it was. Stannis Baratheon and Lysa Arryn have fled beyond my reach, and the whispers say they are gathering swords around them. The Knight of Flowers writes Highgarden, urging his Lord Father to send his sister to court. The girl is a maid of 14, sweet and beautiful and tractable, and Lord Renly and Sir Loras intend that Robert should bed her, wed her, and make a new queen. Littlefinger, the gods only know what game Littlefinger is playing, yet Lord Stark's the one who troubles my sleep. He has the bastard, he has the book. Soon enough he'll have the truth. And now his wife has abducted Tyrion Lannister thanks to Littlefinger's meddling. Lord Tywin will take that for an outrage. Jaime has a queer affection for the imp. If the Lannisters move north, that will bring the Tullys in as well. Delay, you say? Make haste, I reply. Even the finest of jugglers cannot keep 100 balls in the air forever.
That's a lot of good information right there, isn't it?
yeah. It's like almost every character in the book gets a mention, gets a name check.
Yeah, that's some really good stuff right there.
So Stannis and Lysa are both fled. We know that.
Yeah.
The gathering swords is interesting, though.
It is.
Feels like...
Yeah. And he starts the whole thing with, it's no longer a game for two players. You would assume the two players being Robert Baratheon and Viserys Targaryen. But, he's saying this could be up for grabs here, this Iron Throne. And then he says, Stannis and Lysa have fled beyond my reach, which I was surprised to hear that he has a limit to his reach, first of all. I guess they're concerned why they keep wanting to stall things is because the concern is that someone else will take the Iron Throne and stabilize the realm before the Targaryens get there. That was my original thought. But then I had a second thought. Did you have any thoughts on that before I say my second thought?
I'm curious what your second thought is.
My second thought is yes to that, but taking it a step further.
Wait. Your second thought is I was right with my first thought?
Right. My first thought was that. My second thought was, you're a smart guy. That is exactly the right answer. My second thought was to go a step further and say, I think they would like Robert to be on the throne because Robert's the kind of guy they want to face a Dothraki army, because he's going to charge full steam ahead on the battlefield against these guys rather than staying in their castles and using their walls to their advantage. You see what I'm saying there? Maybe you get someone more cautious or someone who's got a little more strategery involved, and they might be able to outmaneuver these Dothraki.
Okay, so let me counter here with a not exactly a. I think that's a very good point. I think clearly the Dothraki's best hope for success is open battle. They are going to be very good in the battlefield.
Right.
Laying siege to castles, not so good.
Not their strong point necessarily.
No, they don't have the patience. They don't have the that's not going to be the way it'll work for them. But if I'm a plotter, the point of my plot is to put Viserys Targaryen on the throne. I don't care how much disruption there is in the realm. The more, the better. Let everyone get into internecine fighting. That just makes the ground much more fertile for my return.
Yeah.
If the realm is settled,
I can see that.
If
Definitely.
Robert's in charge, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to exacerbate the problems unless the plot runs deeper than just Viserys back in some way.
Yes. Yeah.
Unless Viserys' return is perhaps not the end game, but a step towards the end.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. I kind of had that same thought about why is it so important that there be stability. Maybe it's kind of like herding cats. Like if you have all the cats together, you could just throw a bag over all of them. But if you start creating chaos and the cats start running in every direction, then you got to go get that one and you got to go get this one. Maybe it's just easier to do it all at once if you the enemy that you know versus the enemy that you don't know.
But then again, maybe you've hit the nail on the head, because what you said, the first thing you said in thoughts 1 and 2 was that they were afraid of someone taking over and stabilizing the kingdom. Now, I'm thinking that any of this Stannis, Lysa, Tywin, all of that feels like disruption to the realm, but maybe there is some kind of second usurping of the throne, which actually leads to a more stable kingdom.
Yeah,
and I'm trying to think what that might be.
Do you think that's why they're so afraid of Eddard? Because let's say Robert is killed, Joffrey becomes king. He's not old enough to be king yet, so he would need a regent. Eddard could be he has the makings to be a very strong, wise king regent. Maybe that's why he keeps Varys up at night.
That isn't where my thoughts would have gone, because I would think that in the same way that Ned doesn't want nephew Robert Arryn to be fostered by Tywin Lannister, the Lannisters will not want their
Yeah.
grandchild, Joffrey Baratheon, being regented by Ned Stark.
I agree with that, that's for sure. But often, the hand of the king.
But maybe you are pointing to the thing. Maybe if the only thing is, this doesn't really feel like disruption. So take that same thought experiment you just made, but replace the regent with Tywin Lannister.
Yeah.
So now the regent is Tywin Lannister. The Lannisters have enormous power now. Their child is on the throne. Their patriarch is the regent. They own the debts to half the kingdom.
Yep. I see where
There's
you're going
no
with
one
this.
to stand in their way.
Yes.
And so now the realm suddenly looks a lot more solid and a lot more... And they're also ruthless as well, the Lannisters. So if, for instance, the Vale refused to send anyone to help in the defense against the Targaryens, they would be ruthlessly cut down.
Yep.
For their failure.
That's
so maybe that's
makes
it.
a lot of sense. But that makes me wonder why does Varys say it's Ned that keeps him up at night? You think it's because he's afraid Ned's going to find out this secret that Jon Arryn found out and going to do something disastrous to their plan, I guess. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question that I don't have a decent answer to, because I don't see what the problem is. I mean, of course, without knowing what the secret is, it's hard to know what the outcome would be once Ned discovers it.
Right. Well, I guess we'll find out.
But obviously...
Hopefully we find out.
It's destabilizing to the realm, that's for sure.
Yes.
That's the one thing we do know.
Now, all the way back to the whole Stannis Lysa thing, it does seem to confirm that Stannis did flee from fear, not from guilt. They have never mentioned him as any co-conspirator or anything like that, so... Him fleeing to Dragonstone. Remember, I think it was last Ned chapter, we were debating whether he fled to Dragonstone due to guilt of being the one that killed Jon Arryn, or fled because he was afraid of ending up like Jon Arryn.
The other one that's interesting is Renly and Sir Loras.
Yes.
Politicking to get Sir Loras' sister installed as the new queen.
Yeah.
With Robert. So
right.
So now that seems to be at least a plot of sorts against Cersei Lannister.
Yeah, absolutely. And remember back in Bran 2, before Jaime pushes Bran out the window, they're having a conversation, Jaime and Cersei says almost the same thing. How long before Robert finds a new Lyanna Stark and, makes her queen and I'm out the door? And literally, that, adding on to that, remember back in the last Ned chapter when Ned thought that Renly was disappointed at the little locket that Renly said to him, does this look like Lyanna? And he was like, no. It kind of turns that on his head. He thought he was disappointed because Renly, who looks a lot like a young Robert Baratheon, had kind of become obsessed with this idea of, now I need to find a young Lyanna Stark. But really, he's disappointed because he was hoping to find Robert a new young Lyanna Stark.
Interesting.
So that would explain his disappointment was, I was hoping that she would look a lot like Lyanna and that would really get Robert excited about this. But you also remember, I think it was that same chapter, Robert and Ned, they're at the tent before the tourney, and Robert starts talking to him about Marjorie Tyrell and about in kind of glowing ways. It certainly didn't seem opposed to getting to know her better. So yeah, I guess there were some undercurrents, so we just didn't pick up on.
Yeah. So you wanted to talk more about Varys' conversation with Ned from the last Ned chapter?
Yeah, just a little bit. Just because now that we've got this new perspective, I kind of wanted to see how some of that stuff held up. So the first thing, I kind of went back and found some of the things that he told Ned. And the first one I wanted to think about was Cersei forbidding Robert to enter the melee, which, according to Varys, would then ensure that Robert did enter the melee in Cersei's hopes that he would die during the melee. And this, it goes along with Mopatis' too soon for war thought. Because, like we said a little bit ago, it seems that they want Robert on the throne when the Targaryens get here. So unless there was a whole nother subplot where Cersei was being manipulated into, for some reason, forbidding Robert from entering that melee, they really did want to prevent that from happening. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that one might be kind of legit. The second thing was both Varys and Littlefinger had told Ned that the Queen fears him and is spying on him. And we don't know whether that's true or not. But it's certainly telling him that keeps the tension up between the houses, House Lannister and House Stark. So, yeah.
The lion and the wolf.
Right, the lion and the wolf. So I don't know, maybe that's something that in hindsight Varys would try and downplay now that Mopatis is saying, hey, we got to stall for time. We can't have these two going to war together yet. Maybe now Varys would give a more warm, loving approach.
Except Varys responded, you say slow down, I say make haste.
Yes.
No, wait. Yes, you say delay, I say make haste.
So I think he's talking about on Essos. Speed. I can't slow this down over here on Westeros. You got to get those guys speeding up on Essos.
Oh, I see. Yeah. But I mean, babies take 9 months to gestate.
Right.
No way around that.
They can at least start making their way back to, toward the narrow sea during that time. Speed it along, people. And then the third thing was that, do you have anything else you want to say about that?
No, keep going.
The third thing was basically Varys starts ticking off one by one why all of the members of the court, except for Barris and Selmy, would not defend or come to Robert's aid if there was a situation where someone was plotting against him. And I agree with a lot of it. There's obviously, it certainly seems like Cersei would not, and Jaime Lannister would not, and Littlefinger and Grand Maester Pycelle, he can make a decent case for all that. The brothers, I'm not quite so sure about, and maybe some of the others I'm not quite so sure about. In hindsight, I really think he might be just trying to keep Ned from sharing whatever it is he learns with anybody for fear that they will use it against Robert.
Yeah. That's good thinking. That is good thinking. That might be the entire reason for telling it, is to say, basically, the subtext is, when you do discover this secret, you need to not share it with anyone.
Right, because you can't trust anybody.
Yeah, either because I, Varys, want you to be in my inner circle of people who know this secret, or because I don't want this secret to get any wider.
Right.
Just sit on it. Don't reveal. Yeah, good. Yeah, so anyway, I mean, to sort of conclude the discussion on this, if you remember, this was Arya's chapter.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Arya. Well, real quick, one thing I wanted to mention about all this other conversation is that one person they never brought up the whole time, well, at least not in a being involved way, was Cersei. So... Well,
she would be involved if Robert married Marjorie.
Right.
Tyrell.
They just never bring her up as like a co-conspirator in any way. So my thought is if Cersei is involved in a plot to kill Robert, which, that whole forbidding him from entering the melee might suggest, and also when she literally told Jaime and Bran too that she wouldn't mind if Robert died sooner rather than later, it seems like it would be a second isolated plot separate from this particular scheme that these guys are working on.
Right, yeah.
And that would make sense because obviously Cersei wouldn't want to put a Targaryen on throne. She wants her son to take the throne. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that. Cersei.
Yes. Yeah, I take your point. I mean, that there are plots within plots here.
Yes.
Because I think it's clear that Cersei would be very happy if Robert met an untimely end and Joffrey assumed the throne.
Yes.
She or her father became regent to the young king.
Right. Anyway, now back to poor Arya, who's completely been forgotten about.
Yeah. So after she escapes the dungeons by sort of like wandering around and getting lost, she finds herself on the outside of the castle. She comes back in, sort of having to run the gauntlet of the guards who think she's just an urchin. She butchers the story in the way that only a child can.
I had that same thought.
She is sitting on the absolute goldmine of information
Yes.
that this book has been crying out for, and she passes it on to her father in a way that makes him discount every word out of her mouth, basically.
Yes.
So
She talks of monsters and wizards and jugglers and mummers, and ultimately, at least Ned outwardly to her says this was just some mummers, some actors preparing probably something for the king. But you know,
I know what you're going to say. You're going to say that she did mention some things that should resonate.
yes, exactly. She specifically mentions a book and a bastard. Those are two things which Ned should be like, how do you know about this, about a book and a bastard?
Yeah.
But he doesn't. At least he doesn't let on to her.
If she'd added brothels and the lineages of hunting dogs, then he would have had to be pretty gormless not to know this.
Right.
So when Yoren of the Night's Watch arrives, who also mistakes Arya for a boy,
Oh, man.
third time this chapter, she gets sent to bed.
So she gets sent to bed. Yoren says to Ned, I'm only coming to you because of the fact that your brother is also my brother. His Ned's brother, Benjen Stark, is also Yoren's brother of the Night's Watch, because members of the Night's Watch are sworn to not get involved in disputes of the realm, so technically he should be staying out of this. But because he thinks highly of Benjen, he comes to Ned. Ned kicks Arya out of the room.
But she blurts out before she goes if Yoren would take a letter back to Jon
Right.
Snow when he goes. So she's going to hopefully go off and write a letter to Jon. That would
Yes,
be nice.
that would be nice. We assume Yoren is about to tell Ned about what he saw at the inn at the crossroads.
No doubt about that. So, but we're following Arya because it's her chapter, and
Yep.
so she talks to the guard Desmond, who's walking her back to her room, about her father's safety. She hears that there's 50 Stark men in King's Landing, but she is afraid and correct. The Lannisters have many more, but Desmond reassures her that every Northerner's worth 10 Southerners, so they'll be fine.
Yeah. And of course she wishes that it was Fat Tom that was leading her back, because Lord knows you can pull any trick on Fat Tom. She could just say, I have to tie my shoe and sit there for 10 minutes.
Let's call it 49. Even though shoelaces haven't been invented.
You say a 49 men? You're leaving Fat Tom out of this?
Yes, that's what I meant. Yes, yeah.
So, for background, we've been going on for a really long time, so let's just hit a few minor little things. So the one-eared tomcat that Arya is wrangling at the very beginning of the chapter, it was originally believed, and then George Martin confirmed that it is actually Princess Rhaenys' cat. Princess Rhaenys was the daughter of Rhaegar Targaryen and Elia Martell, who was killed by Gregor Clegane. And
No wonder he's so grumpy.
yeah, she had this little cat, and the cat was obviously a black cat, and it was named Balerion the Black Dread, and that was in
Awesome name for a cat.
283, and we're currently in 298, so the cat's about 15 years old, and based on its attitude and its one ear, it seems like it's had poor guy's had a pretty rough life since little Princess Rhaenys died.
The other bit of background, so I mentioned that there are 19 skulls down in the cellars of King's Landing. Some are known and named, but some they don't even know who the skull belonged to. They were just dumped there and are unlabeled, so it'll never be quite clear which one is which from this point going forwards, apart from the original 3. So in comparison with the TV show, Arya does chase cats, but not as successfully, and in fact, she doesn't really look like a water dancer chasing the cats. She looks like a 12-year-old girl chasing cats, to be honest. She never sees Myrcella and Tommen. That doesn't occur in the TV show. She just follows the cat directly into the Dragon Skull chamber. It's not quite as dark, so it is pretty clear to her what she's seeing. But then the conversation is preserved word for word, but it peters out sooner. So the last thing you hear is Varys saying, and as I mentioned, it's totally Varys, there's no escaping that, is Varys saying that it's no longer a game for two, if ever it was. You don't hear him say anything about Stannis or Lysa or Littlefinger or Sir Loras or Marjorie or Renly or Tywin or Tyrion or Cat or Jaime. All the people he goes on to mention, Arya does not hear that in the TV show.
Wow. I guess
So
maybe that's for simplicity's sake, since it's, they've only got an hour per episode. They got to cut down on some of these storylines.
I guess so, but still, I mean, that's, well, yeah, you're right. But again, there's absolutely no doubt in the TV show who's talking. It's Varys and Illyrio Mopatis. And one other thing, Arya does get Ned to listen to her, a little bit of her intel, but she does mangle it pretty much as badly, so he gets nothing from
12-year-old journalist.
So,
she's not even 12, is she?
Exactly.
No, I think she's 9-year-old journalist.
Yeah. When I said she was 12, I was thinking of...
Sansa.
Arya. No, I was thinking of Arya in the TV show.
Oh, that's right.
Who I think she was a little bit older.
Yeah.
So, I couldn't really find much pedantry here, I don't think. I think we're good for pedantry.
Yeah.
So, let's go straight to the conclusion
Yep.
here. Arya's skills are developing. She is becoming a bit of a water dancer. I mean, she's captured every single cat in King's Landing. Which is
Right.
quite something.
Yeah, her sleuthing skills and reporting skills could use a bit of work, though.
Yeah, I mean, sleuthing-wise, she did great. I mean, she overheard that whole entire conversation, but then couldn't remember any of it to the point where it was useless. So.
That's true. Yeah, she did.
Luckily for us, we got to hear it.
Yeah. That's the important part. And, there's a lot of vagueness in all of this, but one thing's for sure is that there is an active plot in King's Landing to bring the Targaryens back into power. There seems to be very little dispute about that from what we've overheard here.
Yeah,
anyway.
and powerful people are involved in that plot as well.
Yeah. And any plot that Cersei is hatching seems to be a separate plot. So this could be, it could be a sticky situation for our King Robert. Multiple people planning his demise.
Yeah, and then whatever Jon Arryn knew and Ned is on the verge of knowing is already known to those plotters.
Yep.
So that makes me ask that sort of double-headed question. Is it the existence of the plot? Is that what they're about to find out? Is that what Arryn found out?
Right.
Oh, this is a revelation that a plot exists. Or is it the secret that is the reason for the plot?
Right. And of course, there's a third one
We'll find out.
Is it something that could ruin the plot? Could disrupt what plot they have?
Actually, I was rolling that under the first one, because the first one, if the secret is the existence of the plot, then that could ruin the plot. If the plot is to bring down Robert, and Ned Stark discovers it, he's going to reveal it.
Right.
And try to stop it, yeah?
Yes.
That's what that's what I'm saying by the existence of the plot being the... But of course, if the plot is for the good of the realm and doesn't actually hurt Robert, but it sounds like it's going to, it sounds going to dethrone him, then I guess that's the only way that Ned could be brought into the plot, is if it was not an anti-Robert plot.
Exactly.
But it certainly sounds like one.
All right. Anything else?
Let's put an end to this.
Okay. I hope the quality worked out all right. Again, we're recording from separate studios.
Well, yeah, when we get to episode 300 of this, we will wonder what we meant by social distancing.
Hopefully we do.
We'll be like, coronavirus? What was that?
That would be good.
You know me. Even if it's not forgettable, I will still forget it.
Okay, let's wrap this up.
As always, you can reach us on ghost.harrenhall@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at @GhostHarrenhall. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
All right. Anything else?
Okay, thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.